Web3 with Whitney. This is day 9, and 9 is actually one of my favorite numbers. And maybe that'll give me some extra energy because I'm gonna need it. I am feeling very tired, and I actually wouldn't say that I'm burnt out, but I feel like the term burnout is something I wanted to focus on today because of how I'm feeling, and acknowledging that I think is incredibly important. I'm very dedicated to being transparent, and that's why I'm doing the live streams. And I acknowledge that burnout is a big element of technology. Sometimes we're overusing technology and not fully aware of our well being. And I talked about this on yesterday's episode, which was centered around FOMO and all the different fear and stress and anxiety emotions that come up. But we also have to recognize our reactions and the kind of ripple effect that work in technology are, whether it's just our finances, investing, researching, looking at what other people are doing, even you in this very moment watching this video that I'm making, really checking in with yourself is incredibly important. To be honest, I considered not going live today, but I really feel like it's important to be consistent. And I don't want people to think that I'm not going to show up. So I'm actually much later. I'm starting like 2 hours later than normal. I allowed myself that space because I haven't made promises to show up at specific times. But even that was tough for me. And the reason I didn't go live on my usual schedule is because I could feel my body needing rest. And frankly, I don't feel fully rested and recovered yet, but I spent the last 2 hours doing a combination of more low key work and research. I wanted to kind of reflect on what was going on with Web3 today and what I wanted to talk about. And then that in itself, just doing that research, doing all the reading I was doing, I felt like so exhausted by that. So I just went and laid down in my bed. I have a weighted blanket that's such a game changer for me. I've always really liked having something heavy on me, especially when I'm sleeping. But man, it makes a huge difference during the day when I'm feeling stressed, anxious, burnt out, just needing a break. I'll go under that weighted blanket and it's like amazing. And there are so many things that I want to address in terms of emotions today. So that's going to be the focus, and full transparency. I'm not going to share a ton of tips, although for those that tune in for that specific reason, well, first of all, let me reframe that. I'm going to share tips, but they're mostly related to well being and navigating challenges, which I think are really coming up a lot for me as I go through this journey of learning Web3. But before I get to that, I'm going to start my TikTok live stream and officially kick things off. I always like to start my other live streams as like a little um, talk before I turn on TikTok because it just feels like a different thing because you might be watching the recording. And also a heads up that I'm currently experimenting just broadcasting to YouTube, my personal Facebook account, and Twitter because I've been having so many issues with LinkedIn. In fact, on LinkedIn today, I got a message from somebody who was telling me that they were getting like nonstop notifications of me going live. And I'm guessing what happened is because of all the tech challenges I've had with LinkedIn Live, it's like been broken up into like one video has been broken up into 3 or 4 parts. So I think what happened, which I did not realize today until I got feedback, was that like my live would stop and then restart. And every time it restarted, somebody would get a notification. So even though technically I was only going live once per day, it looked like I was going live at 4 different times. And I just like got into this state of, oh my gosh, how many people feel annoyed? But that's out of my control. Anyways, I'm going to get more into that in a moment. Let me start my TikTok live and we'll jump into it. So that experience of seeing or hearing about somebody's challenges with my live, I first of all wanted to take on that personal responsibility as if I had full control. this is another reason why I've been really committed to going live every day, is because I've learned so much through all these mistakes. And almost every single day there's been some sort of mistake like that, which has felt really frustrating. But how else would I learn, right? Like, you don't learn until you do something, or you can, but it's all a concept in our heads. When we actually do something, we put it into practice, we learn much faster, we learn bigger lessons, and it's a really big challenge. And even though what I have to share around those lines may not feel directly related to Web3, I think that there's so much in conjunction, because as I've said, my big aim with this series is to be transparent about my journey, to bring you along the way, so to show that we're all in this together, to answer questions, to be able to better articulate it, but also force myself into learning every single day and studying. So even when I was tired and feeling burnt out today, I found some energy to learn a few things. So the main thing, I didn't go super deep into my Web3 resources today because of my lack of energy. But one thing that I'm finding interesting that you may not have seen is that this week, a lot of social media platforms started allowing people to take the NFTs that they own or make, I suppose, and use them as their profile pictures. And that's kind of interesting. We saw this happening with Twitter, and then I think Facebook and Instagram, or Meta and Instagram, announced that they're going to do that as well. And it shows that social media is really starting to embrace Web3. I wouldn't be surprised if uh, TikTok starts doing that soon, YouTube, all these platforms. And I don't know, I don't have any NFTs right now that I want to use as my profile photo. On most of my profile, well, actually, I guess I shouldn't say most. On my Twitter profile, I'm using an image of from this website called Ready Player Me, and I talked about this a few days ago in this series, how easy it was to make it, and it just like feels like an avatar. And I wanted it to, I wanted to immediately showcase that I'm in Web3 on Twitter, because Twitter, out of all social media platforms right now, is super into Web3. So it makes sense that Twitter is one of the first platforms to really embrace NFTs on the platform. And so you'll see people using, like, bored apes and crypto kitties, and what's another one off the top of my head? There's so many like big NFT projects, and people are uh, using what they purchased to indicate to other people that they're in the NFT world. Maybe they're kind of like bragging about it in a way, although I think I used brag very lightly, because I don't necessarily think it's a brag. It's just saying to other people, hey, I have NFTs, and hey, I'm in this world, which I think is really cool. And on Twitter, what they're doing, there's two sides to it. One, they are, normally your profile picture is a circular shape on Twitter and other platforms, but if you're going to use an NFT, I think it's an octagon. So it's a completely different shape. So it indicates to people in a few different ways that you're in this Web3 NFT world. But the downside is, I think only people who are part of Twitter Blue, which I have very surface level awareness of, but I'm fairly certain you have to pay for Twitter Blue, and you get like different elements of Twitter, I guess, for using it. I have not looked into it very in depth, but you have to basically pay to display your NFT on there, which I find kind of annoying. But a lot of people in the Web3 world are on Twitter Blue, I guess, or they're willing to spend the money on it enough to display their NFTs. So I guess that's kind of interesting. And hello to people who are joining on TikTok. Today's topic is mostly going to be about burnout and managing our emotions and staying balanced. But right now, I'm just talking about some industry updates, specifically around Twitter's changes and upcoming changes that we're going to see on platforms like Facebook and or slash Meta, depending on how you want to reference it, and Instagram. And how I also show, I think that more people are going to get into NFTs and better understand them because of these shifts. So I'm really excited about that too. Sometimes we need to be pushed a lot in order to embrace new technology, and I guess that ties into to today's themes, is like, I feel like it's very important for us to find the balance between needing to be pushed, or feeling the benefits of being pushed into things when we don't fully feel ready for something, versus being pushed too far. In fact, today I stepped down from a Web3 project, and it was a really hard decision for me to make because I was really excited about this project and the potential that it had, but it was actually not working out for me given my current schedule, my priorities, my obligations. And I wasn't able to do it all without stretching myself too thin and being in this constant state of burnout. And I know, and I think many of us know, that burnout doesn't feel good. It doesn't really help us. It's not sustainable in the long run. And what I'm grateful for is in the past year or two, it feels like more and more people are acknowledging that, and trying to move away from hustle culture. So much, and I talked about this yesterday, so it's a little bit repetitive, but so much of Web 2 has been based in hustle culture, has been based in people working themselves to the bone. I think part of that might be a bit generational, and maybe millennials and Gen Z are just fed up with it. Part of that's going to be the pandemic, and once that's revealed to us, and we have the great resignation happening, and a lot of people are thinking about how they work very differently. And I think there are opportunities in Web3 for us to monetize in ways that actually may not stretch us too thin. But in the process of getting there, we have to be really mindful about all of the emotional roller coasters that we might go on, and as we're learning and developing in Web3, if this makes sense. So for me, it's like the information overload, the overwhelm that I often feel when I'm studying something brand new, the fear that I might come up for me as I'm embracing something new. As I've been involved with a few Web3 projects now, I found myself feeling a bit ignorant and scared of being ignorant, and frustrated with my ignorance, and feeling like I have to learn really quickly. But my brain in particular needs time. My brain needs to do things a bit slowly. My brain needs to practice things over and over again, a lot of repetition, a lot of consistency, right? And some people learn very differently too. So, part of when we're experiencing burnout is recognizing that we are each unique. And just because someone else is able to do something at a certain pace doesn't mean that we are, or that doesn't mean that we are able to do it in that moment based on our circumstances and our priorities. Sometimes we're not able to do things because of our preferences, because of the way that we want to live our life. And hello to Jafar, who is been an amazing supporter of this series. I really want to acknowledge you. And actually, this feels like a good time for me to share some exciting news, at least on my end, in my head, something I've been meaning to say for a while. So, in every episode of this series, I've mentioned my creator coin on the platform Rally. It's called the Well coin. And I've been wanting to do some airdrops, as they call it, to give anybody who's been watching this series and really interested in Web3 some free cryptocurrency. So I'm able to do that because of the amount of that coin that I own on the Rally platform. So I want to give you a little sneak peek, a heads up, that in the near future, there will be ways for you to literally just get free crypto from me in the form of my Wellcoin, which you could actually convert to US dollars or whatever currency you would like. You could trade it to get other forms of cryptocurrency, and it's not a scam at all. Like, it's just a beauty of being on this platform Rally. And it might be small amounts. I've got to figure all this out, but you'll get something if you stick around and engage. And Jafar, you're on my list of people that I would like to give some to, just because you've been very positive. You've been here a lot of times, and I want to reward people who are involved, who are engaged, who are participating, who are excited about all of this. So stay tuned. The best ways for you to find out about when that's happening is a few methods. So one is, I think, if you just follow me on Twitter, which is at Whitlaurtsen, my same handle as most other platforms, WHITLAURITSEN. If you go over to my Twitter and follow me there, I'll make announcements when I'm going to do airdrops. That's a very common thing in the Web3 world. So I'll say, hey, I'm going to airdrop some well coin today. Come join me. And you'll know when I'm going to start so you can grab some. Also, if you subscribe on whatever platform you're viewing this on and turn on your notifications, you'll know when I go live. And I'll try to give a heads up maybe in the description or the title when I'm giving some away. And maybe I'll start doing it every single episode. I'm going to experiment with it first and figure out all the logistics. So, yeah, you guys can get some free well coin. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you can go back a few episodes. But the quick summary is that I have this creator coin on the platform called Rally. You can go to rally.io. You can search for my name, Whitney, and find my coin. You can go to my website. It's linked to Rally actually at the very bottom of whitneylauritsen.com/web3 and check it out. And all you have to do is create an account on there. And when I give it away, you'll get some of this coin in your Rally account. And even if you're brand new to getting cryptocurrency, it's a start. That's how I've felt. I've required free Rally coins from a number of people who have done similar things, like these airdrops, as they call them. I've acquired cryptocurrency in a few different forms for free through different programs, and it's not a scammy thing. It's just that it's a way to incentivize you to get more involved, and that's what I want to do. I want to reward you for involvement. I want to reward you for your interest and your curiosity and your consistency. And it's part of just creating a positive momentum for all of us. So, more on that later, but stay tuned. And today I want to dig in on something that I had hinted at, which is being honest with ourselves about what we're going through and recognizing that a lot of the times we can fall into feelings of overwhelm, shame, fear, anxiety, stress, burnout. And sometimes, or if more often than not, perhaps, those emotions may be either caused by or heightened by comparison. And this is a very important thing, I believe, to talk about when it comes to Web3. And even going back to what I was sharing about people starting to use their NFTs on their profile photos, you may find yourself comparing yourself to others based on like what they have or in the NFT world or in the cryptocurrency world or what they're developing. You may feel like you're behind, you may feel like they're better than you may feel like they've figured things out that you don't. You can feel like, on and on, all these like negative emotions we get when we fall into the comparison trap. That's something I'm very committed to addressing in this series and reminding you that I'm here. I'm not trying to come across as better than you. I'm trying for us all to get on the same page and be in this together because I feel like that's where the strength comes from, that true community there, and to pull you out of the comparison trap as much as I can, or at least remind you that not everybody in Web3 is going to be using geek speak, is going to be talking over your head, is going to be bragging in their ego or trying to scam you, right? And I think there's a lot of that fear right now in this field. So we can move through this together. But there was a couple things that came up as I was reflecting on this, as reflecting on the challenges emotionally, the uh, temptation to fall in the comparison trap. One of them came from this website, startups.com. And there was some great quotes in there about the facade of confidence. And I want to be frank today that there have been so many moments today where I have not felt confident. I think that's part of why I was feeling really drained and needed to just like lay down for an hour and scroll through TikTok is because I was feeling vulnerable and insecure and unsure and drained from conversations that I had and hardships and big decisions I had to make today. All of that made it very challenging. And so I had to pause and rebalance myself, step away from things. I talked a lot about this on yesterday's episode. If you haven't watched or listened to it yet, you can go see it on my YouTube channel, or you can get the private podcast version of the show, which is over at whitneylauritsen.com/web3. And back to that startups.com reference, there were a couple quotes that I found really helpful. Number one, the article said, essentially, there are two types of founders, those that admit they're wrecked with anxiety and those that are lying about it. And it's funny reading that, I can relate to that because I know that I often face a lot of anxiety around the work that I'm doing, but I do often feel like some people don't experience it, like because they put on a facade or because they're very good at looking confident. I just assume that they have everything together and things are easy for them. But this article and many others point out that that's not really the truth. It just might be your perception of them. It's just like on Instagram, we see pictures of people and their lives, and we assume that everything's great and they're happier than us, they're more successful than us. But that may not be the case, and I think it's more and more important for us to be really honest. Like one way that I show up that way is like I try not to wear a lot of makeup in my videos like I used to, and I try not to like make my background look perfect and all my technology look perfect because I want to be down to earth because that's who I am, you know? Like what you see is pretty much what you get with me. And I feel like even using filters and makeup and great lighting and like cool, cool editing and all of these things that we often see online, they remove like the authenticity of us, and they can unfortunately make other people feel like we've got everything together. And I feel like I'm more in between. Like I feel like I have things together, but I don't feel perfect. I feel pretty balanced, but I go through waves of anxiety, right? Uh, so it's just kind of more finding that in between state, in my opinion, as best you can. Another thing from that article is assume pretty much everything you read or hear about someone else or some other company doing amazingly well is a bunch of BS, because it probably is. Don't compare yourself to it and learn how to filter it. This is also so key when it comes to Web3. I've sprinkled this tip in throughout some of my videos, but when you're reading blog posts, Twitter posts, watching videos like this, hearing people talk about Web3, make sure that you are A, not falling to that comparison trap to the best of your ability, and B, also filtering out things that don't feel right to you, don't feel good to you, and or cross-checking it, cross-referencing it, and realizing that, just because someone's saying something doesn't mean that it's true. And that might sound like really obvious advice, but it's especially important when you're reading about money, when you're reading about, work and career and technology developments. A lot of people are coming at this with their own experience, their opinions, their own information. And it's just very important for us to like look and see the other side of things before we believe in it, before we take someone else's advice, and especially before we fall into the comparison trap. And just want to acknowledge the YouTube comment well, yeah, it's on YouTube. So hey, hello, thanks for being here. Um, the other thing that I've really been trying to talk about a lot and be transparent about is like how hard things are to begin. A startup could be starting up a new project. It doesn't mean that you're funding and founding a new company. Maybe you're just starting up with something, and that can feel really challenging. It can feel exciting, but you have to know that there's going to be bumps along the way, and it might take longer than you want it to. And um, it can make you feel insecure and vulnerable and afraid, and mistakes will happen. And actually, I'm so glad that I've been doing this series live, because as I've mentioned in almost every video, I've had so many tech issues the past 9 days of doing this series. And I felt embarrassed for them. Like earlier today, when someone reached out about the LinkedIn notifications that they were getting and feeling bombarded. And I had to step back because my first reaction was to be really embarrassed. And then I realized, wait a second, like I didn't turn on those notifications. I didn't know that they were there. It might not be my fault that they are happening. I felt guilty and like because I was involved with somebody's challenge, but like sometimes we just take on way too much with self-blame within ourselves, or too much responsibility. And that is like this greater perspective of just starting something, knowing that you may fumble through it, knowing that you might feel embarrassed. People might, be pissed off. They might criticize you. They may ridicule you. A lot of us are afraid of like being cringeworthy or whatever. And I feel that too. I mean, I do these videos and sometimes I watch them back and I could just like go on and on about what I don't like about myself in the videos. But every time I catch myself doing that, I just like try to pause and think, okay, at least I'm doing it. At least I'm committed to this. At least I'm finding the courage. At least I'm being consistent. And I just got to like pat myself on the back. And I want to pat you on the back, whether you're tuning into these videos consistently, like I've said. That's awesome. Thank you for being here. But that shows that you're interested in the subject matter. And if you're just spending a little bit of time dipping your toes in this Web3 world, I think it's important for me to acknowledge you there. And when it comes to our fears about what other people will say about us, our fears about making mistakes, even like mistakes that we're afraid to make privately, like I think with our finances, a lot of that is done privately, and maybe you're afraid to lose money, for example. I try not to pay too much attention to my cryptocurrency. My perspective and my approach to it right now is I just like put money in and sometimes put more in, but I try not to look at it too much because I don't plan on taking it out. Um, and I'm same with the stock investments. And I just recently put some more money into a stock and was like checking in on it daily. And it's been down because the market's been down and this particular stock has been down. But it's okay. I'm just going to wait it out and see where it goes. I'm trying not to freak out too much about it, right? And sometimes we can be afraid to just start doing something. Even if no one else will see our mistakes, maybe we'll feel a lot of regret or shame or frustration for our decisions. And I really think it's important to just do it anyways. Also, when it comes to community, which is really at the core of Web3, it reminded me of something that I read earlier today on an Instagram post from this account, Do You Minded, which is all about like mindfulness and self-awareness. And the quote was, deeper connections are formed through communication, through asking more questions and pausing to listen to the response. This is again the reason that I go live every day. It's the opportunity to communicate with you, the opportunity to take in feedback from other people, asking questions of one another, and encouraging you to ask questions of me and other people. It's being committed to that communication. That's being committed to asking questions every day. That's how we best learn. So, outside of the context of my videos, what questions can you ask that are going to help you learn more about Web3 and really get more familiar with it in the context of your own life and how it could benefit you? Thinking about all of these things helps me work through my burnout because it's just about acceptance. It's about being okay with things no matter how they feel in the moment. Like right now, I just feel tired, to be honest. It was hard for me to start, but you know what? I showed up. And how long has it been? I've been live for actually almost 30 minutes with very few tech issues. Awesome. I don't know how I avoided them, but somehow they didn't happen. This is great. And funny enough, I felt a little rushed. I didn't do as much prep work today as I normally have for the other episodes of the series. And like everything just kind of flowed. So sometimes we don't need to be perfect. Sometimes we just need to show up. And I want you to show up over and over again. Before I wrap up today, Jafar on TikTok asked, what is Web3? So thank you for being here. Maybe you don't even care about Web3. Maybe you show up for me. But regardless of why you show up to my videos, I hope that they are teaching you something about Web3. So the easiest way to define Web3 is it's a decentralized version of the internet that runs on a blockchain. And if that doesn't make any sense to you, please go back and watch some of my older videos. One in particular is called, I think I called it Crypto Lingo or blockchain lingo. I talked about what the blockchain is, what it means to be decentralized. And don't quote me on it. I've done so many videos in the past 9 days that I forget what I said in which. So if you go to whitneylauritsen.com/web3, that has a whole archive of all of my past videos and the audio only versions of them if you just want to listen. And Jafar, you're so sweet. I appreciate you, whoever you are, as I get to know you more. So speaking of getting to know each of you more, I will be back again tomorrow, even if I'm feeling tired and burnt out like today. And I will be doing some airdrops soon, as promised, which means that you can get some free cryptocurrency through rally.io, where I have my coins. I'm excited to make that happen, test it out, see where it goes, and reward you for showing up, being consistent alongside me. I'm gonna go now, have some dinner, unwind, try to get some other things done, or maybe just like veg out and watch TV. That's probably likely. Usually this time of day, that's what I do, and then I get another burst of energy late at night. And I almost thought, like, what if I just did my live video at 10 or 11 p.m., which is like when I start to get more energy, but I want to try to be consistent to this time of day. So um, that's why I showed up despite being low energy. So thanks again. Hope to see you in another day, live video or in the recording. If you have more feedback and questions, please let me know, and I'll make sure to address them as to the best of my ability. Bye.